Hey guys, welcome back to the Tyrant Network podcast. I am your host, Corey Frederick. And off the mat today, we have Tim Ziola from Omaha, Nebraska. Tim, thanks for joining us.
It's totally my pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Hey, as always, I like to give our listeners just a little bit of a background on our guests. So, a quick little bio certainly doesn't do the justice of everything you've accomplished, but you are born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. You played baseball and graduated from Bellevue University. You are currently and have been a financial advisor for over 2 decades. You are the complex manager and financial advisor of Ziola Wealth Solutions of Raymond James and Associates. Your office is in Omaha, Nebraska. You are or have been the director and head coach of the Dynasty National Wrestling Team. You're the founder, and I know you've been pushing it a lot on social media. You're the founder of the Scrap Lab Wrestling Club. You're also the executive committee member or an executive committee member of the Nebraska Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. You're also a board member of Take Down the Tumor, which focuses more on pediatric brain tumors. And then when you do have any free time, you enjoy playing golf, hunting, fishing. And then in addition, you're also a hunting instructor and you also breed Chesapeake Bay retrievers. So I'd
Well,
love to get to know you a little bit more. I know we've known each other for a few years now, but really, you know, how do you get all this done, or what's life like with the Ziola family out there?
it's good. It's crazy. I have three sons, and I have a wife. I married the girl I went to high school with. She knew what she was getting herself into. I don't think I have to remind her of that at times. But it's good. I mean, just I figure between work and all the extracurricular things that go on, the days go by pretty fast. But we just try to make time for try to make do some family stuff. And it's funny because our family stuff is sports. I mean, vacations or sports trips. I've sent Tyrant Duels a lot of money along the way, taking teams and taking my boys out there to wrestle. And I just it's hard. I really struggle telling anybody no. And luckily, I don't run on much sleep. I don't require a lot of sleep. So a lot of late nights, early-ish mornings. If I had it my way, I'd sleep a little later and stay up a little later. So I tend to do that. But Omaha's a good town. It's kind of expensive to live here, but I was born and raised here. I went away for school for a few years and then came home, and here I am.
So I know that you played baseball in college. You're involved
Mhm.
with wrestling. One of your boys plays baseball. They probably
Yeah.
all have at one point or time, but two of your boys are really focused on wrestling. One is focused on baseball. But do you have a background, or what is your background as a participant in the sport of wrestling?
Well, it's be prepared to be really unimpressed. I have an identical twin brother. He was a wrestler. Uh, I played basketball, but through osmosis, I practiced and competed very minimal when I was a kid. Uh, I told this story the other day, so if anybody has heard this story before, I apologize. I started at quarterback on the freshman football team and then started the subsequent 3 years on varsity. And our freshman coach, the high school I went to, we were kind of a dynasty. We had won, I think, 5 state titles in a row, had a bunch of really, really good guys. The freshman coach was a guy named Paul Novotny, and the last practice of the year, said to me, Z, he called it his G. He said, if you come out for wrestling, I think you could start at quarterback next year on the varsity. And I was like, I really would rather just go quail hunting. And my dad caught wind of that, and he thought wrestling would be a significantly more productive use of my time. So I skipped quail hunting and I wrestled my freshman year. Wrestled on JV. There was a two-time Division II finalist that was ahead of me and a couple-time state champion, Chris Blair. He literally beat me up every day. And so Chris and I are really good buddies. He doesn't want the smoke today, but back then he gave me all I could handle. Sadly, Coach Savantni passed away, and that was the extent of my wrestling. I went back to quail and duck hunting, and but I loved it. And I got into the sport. People give me a hard time once in a while about being so enthralled with wrestling, and the reality is, I would have loved to have had baseball players and football players. I've got one baseball player. My son Ben is what 106-pound freshman, and he's small. My son Cade wrestled 190 this year, and he's just a terrible football player and was a terrible baseball player. So he was tough, he was physical, but couldn't run out of sight in 3 days. And so it was just a situation for me where, where I'm from, there's a lot of wrestlers, and I always joke it wouldn't have mattered if they wanted to play the tuba. I would have hired the best tuba instructor. I would have learned how to play the tuba, and I just want to be there with my boys. I read a statistic it's really got me in my feelings. By the time a kid is 18 years old, they will have spent 93% of the time with you that they're going to spend with you in their life.
Hmm.
So I read that a long time ago, and I just want to hang out with my boys and be with my boys. I don't really have much in the way of vices anymore, no drinking or anything like that. It's my vice now. My drug is just spending time with my boys and their buddies and all the kids that we get a chance to work with and coach. So it sounds really, really exciting, but it's really not. It's just us doing our thing.
So how did two of your three boys get so involved in wrestling if you only had 1 year experience? Then I know your other son plays baseball.
Yeah,
He's actually committed to go to Nebraska.
yeah,
But how are you or how are they so involved since you only had 1 year JV? Like how did you get on that train?
yeah. I had some really good buddies. I had some really good buddies that were involved in the sport, and they were all over me to, don't have your kids play basketball, have them come wrestle. So there was a club here in town called MWC Wrestling Academy. And so we went there and, like an idiot, I became president of the club and was raising money and getting involved with all that. And my son Cade was not great, but he was just tough. He didn't mind cutting weight. He didn't mind whatever you asked him to do, he would do. My son Ben was always just better. My son Jace was a really good wrestler, but he hated cutting weight and he hated losing. And he came to me and he said, Dad, if I don't cut weight, I don't win as much as I want to win and I want to play baseball. So it was just one of those deals where I would go to Cade's baseball games and I coached that baseball team, and he was terrible. I make the joke. We made it to the state finals 5 years in the major class. I think we won four of them, and my son Cade never had an at bat in the state finals ever. He was no good, and he knew it. And my son Ben was a decent player, but he was just always really, really good at wrestling. Ben uh, struggles in school at times. He works hard at it, but school's just not really his thing a lot. But when a coach shows him new technique, when a coach shows him something, he just gets it. He's really, really good at that. Whereas Cade is a little bit different from the standpoint that he doesn't learn it as quick, but he'll try anything and he'll wiggle his way out of any position if he gets himself in a bad spot. So I don't know if that answers your question. I think ultimately I just want to be with my guys. I just want to
Yeah.
spend time with my boys and know that Dad's got their back. I text them all the time, and we got a group chat, and we talk a lot of crap on it. And we have a lot of fun, but my boys are keenly aware that I'm Dad. I'm certainly not their buddy, but I'm excited to be their buddy. I'm excited for when they become adults and they're on their own. They're off the Ziola scholarship. They're off the payroll. Maybe they can buy me a dinner, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for that next phase of our life. But I'm not going to rush to get there. I want to be kids as long as they can, and I try to explain to them, when you turn 18 or 21, just because you can buy a can of snuff or a pack of cigarettes or rent a car, it doesn't make you a man. You're a man when you're on your own, and I think the best men, I think the best adults are the ones that can assess the situation, determine the outcome, and make a decision. And I think the more of a man you become and the better of a man you become, the quicker and more responsive and better you become at kind of navigating some of that. So I don't know if I'm a man yet by that category, by that standard, but I'm a work in progress, certainly.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like, I don't know you that well, but I know you pretty well. And, for all the people that are going to be listening to this, like, I just want to point out a couple things. I didn't know prior till today that you only had 1 year of wrestling. But what
Mm-hmm.
I do know is that when you guys attend our tournaments, you have some of the best teams and the best wrestlers in the country. But when it comes to your own boys, I know that you surround yourself with great coaches when you come with the dynasty team. I know back home, based off of what I see and I hear, that the scrap lab you are bringing in other great coaches. So it's not like you're trying to pretend to be something you're not. It seems like you're just a really great supporter. You bring the resources. You give them all the opportunities. And then it's just a matter of whether they take advantage of it. And right now, I know your two older boys are twins, but they're juniors in high school. But Jace is committed to Nebraska for baseball.
Yeah.
Cade is committed to Nebraska for wrestling. He's a two-time state champion. He's an Ironman champ. And then you got Ben, that's only a freshman, and he won high school states this year. So obviously, like, if I'm a parent and I'm wondering how I should potentially go about raising or coaching or dealing with my kids, and I want them to be successful, I would strike up a personal conversation with you at a restaurant or a wrestling tournament or a baseball game in a minute just to get some perspective. So you're doing something right. Let's not forget that Jen is probably the one behind the scenes that's making you do all these things right.
No,
But
she's just so you know, She fought me every step of the way. All Jen wanted was a peaceful household, and sadly, she got anything but a peaceful household. But she didn't care for the journey, but I think she's enjoying the destination.
Did she ever want to say, "Hey, let's try for a fourth because I want a daughter"?
Absolutely not. It was so funny at lunch today. I took a bunch of the guys and gals I work with to lunch today, and one of them said, "What if you had a daughter?" And I said, "That would just wouldn't happen. That would be terrible. She would look like me. She'd have a really hard life." And one of the gals said, "Well, did Jen want a daughter?" And I said, "No. She always wanted boys." So I just don't. Jen gets really annoyed with me because I tend to go head first into anything that I do, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But if it works, it's on me, and if it doesn't work, it's on me. So
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit on the professional side is
yeah,
when did you decide you wanted to be a financial advisor? And then how was that journey to become a financial advisor? And then really, let's say like a partner slash owner in your own little firm out there.
yeah. So I wanted to be in investments at a young age. My grandfather was an investor. I was always I talk a lot, but I was always a pretty good listener. And so I saw him talking about the stock market. I loved math. So I kind of dabbled around with wanting to be an engineer. And then I was doing a project at the high school back when in my drinking days. I was doing a project at my high school, and a guy said, "Hey, we want to do these batting cages." And I said, "Well, great. You raise the money, and I'll do it. I'll donate all the labor and the material." And he called me the next day, and he said, "Hey, we raised that money." So I was like, "God, I didn't think it's a small private high school, Catholic high school. I thought it'd take them a year to raise the 30 grand." So I did a little check, and the guy that raised the money just wrote a check. I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a financial advisor." And so I told him I'm studying finance. I got a year left. See, I actually went to junior college, then I went to a big school in Texas and played, and finished my education at Bellevue. And so I turned around and I thought, how the heck does this guy have this kind of money? So I did some checking and learned a little bit about his story, and I went to work at a firm, literally knocking on doors, introducing myself. And I made 2,358 first contacts my first year, and just asking people about their money, asking them about their investments and the experience that they've had. And that guy that helped me, his name was Doug, and he changed my life. And I've had some great mentors along the way. Um, I'll tie it back to my boys. We spend a lot of time uh, talking about not living in an echo chamber. We had a ton of in-home visits, and even though my boys are still committed places, you come home and there's letters from Alabama and Florida and Indiana for Jason, Michigan, and all these people sending us stuff for sports. And I don't think they're being disrespectful. I think they just have a database, and I think they just send the information out to the young guys. And I just tell them we don't live in an echo chamber. I said, everybody else, all these schools, all these teachers, all these coaches, they're going to tell you how good you are and how great you are and how high your ceiling is. But the reality is, the best coaches, the best people in your life, they're going to give you honest and hard feedback. And so I've had, to tie it to me, I've had great mentors in my life. People that told me my high school wanted me to be a baseball coach my first year as a financial advisor. My mentor told me, "You've been hired to meet people and talk about investments. You were not hired to coach baseball." And growing up, I was the kind of guy that would have been like, "Well, screw that. I'm going to do what I want." But I submitted. I submitted to the process. I saw people doing better than me, and I just said I want to do that. So it doesn't matter if it's wrestling or baseball or being a financial advisor. I think the secret to a great sauce for my Italian brethren is heat. And I think when you put heat on it, when you have people around you that tell you honestly, that are always honest with you, sometimes brutally honest with you, if you really listen to that advice, I think the net effect is really good things. So that's kind of been my story. I thought being an investments guy, I started as a stockbroker, and today I'm a managing director, financial advisor. And I thought it was just trading stocks, and I'd be Gordon Gecko or Bud Fox from Wall Street. But I think we spend more time now being doing a lot of planning, doing a lot of cash management, asset allocation, a lot of couples therapy. It's 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 a really really interesting vocation. The CEO of our firm calls it a noble profession, um, and I think it is. I think it's truly a noble profession. But it's funny because I work with a lot of married and retired working investors, And they like to have these ex parte conversations. You know, the wife wants to do the home edition, the husband doesn't. So the wife's calling me saying, "Hey, let's do this." The husband's saying no, and I just say, "Let's get together and let's do some math. Let's do some financial planning. Let's work through a decision tree. Let's figure out the pros and cons." And I'm not going to pick a side. I'm going to pick the side of math. Whatever makes the most sense to helping you achieve your goals is the camp that I'm going to sit in. So I love it. I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's really hard. I don't know if I would go on this journey again, frankly, because COVID and the dot coms and the real estate bubble and oil, and so it's been really really hard. And I think the hardest part about my job is that when you try as hard as you can, and this, I want your listeners to understand this, that when you buy quality, long term, quality wins. And I think the problem is that I read a book, How to Live to Be 120 Years Old. It was something like that. Rule number one, if it tastes good, don't eat it. Rule number two, if it comes through your car window, never, ever eat it. Um, and I think when you drill down on especially those rules, I think the same thing applies to investments. It would feel so good to sell. The market's getting beat up, and your 401k is a 201k, and everything's bad. And that's when people like me, we earn our money. But the hard part of the job is that people kind of freak out. The people that tell me they're long-term investors, oh boy, they scare me, because the reality is for people, long-term is a series of short-term events. And I've got a very, very working understanding of that and the human condition that goes with it. So I try really, really hard to never, ever, ever get emotionally tied to an investment. I try very, very hard to have math to support our thesis and support what we're trying to do. So we can remove the emotion, and we can have a very, very rational conversation about what we're trying to do. So that's probably way more than you wanted, but at least it was all real.
Yeah, I want it all. So really, let's say like initially your motivation was, hey, I think I can make a lot of money. But now,
100%.
but now the reality is you're changing people's lives and you're helping them achieve their goals.
You just nailed it. So I must have explained it correctly, because that is perfectly stated.
I already had that written down, so I don't know if your explanation was good or not.
No,
Now,
well, just lie to me. Just lie to me.
so I mean, there's a million different scenarios here, right? But it's like if I'm the average person, like a
Mhm.
lot of times people think that they can't. First of all, people are living paycheck to paycheck, but they how do they get started? What's the first step? I can't afford to do that. It's even like I remember my wife, she went back to work and I said, look, max out your 401k plan to whatever they're going to do because, well, no, I'm not even going to have a paycheck left. And I'm like, well, listen, you'll get used to living without it. Like you won't, once it's gone, you won't even know that it's gone. You're only going to be used to what hits your bank account. So, but like, what advice can you give, whether it's somebody fresh out of college, whether it's somebody that has their first job or somebody that just doesn't feel like they have disposable income to spare? How can they get started so their life is easier later on?
100%. Einstein said the most powerful force in the universe is not atomic energy, it's compounding interest. And I think the reality is that the more compounding periods that you have, the longer you can have your money invested. And we can talk about asset allocation. We can talk about real estate, money market, government bonds, mutual fund stocks. I'll go as far down the rabbit hole. I'm fully prepared to go down that rabbit hole. But I think the reality is that the faster you can get your money into tax deferred vehicles and take advantage of that match that your employer is offering. So when people come to me and they say, "Hey, listen, I'm looking at two jobs," I say, "Listen, what you're getting paid is the hard dollars. That's your paycheck. We got to talk about soft dollar. We got to talk about insurance. We got to talk about benefits. We got to talk about expense accounts. We got to talk about retirement plan." When somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, look, the place I'm going to work does not have a retirement plan," that's concerning to me. Because when you look at a 401k, if you can get a 3% match on your 401k, that is 3% of your pay that is free money. So you contribute three, they contribute three. So if you're making 100 grand, just to make the math easy, that's 3,000 free dollars. I think I spend a lot of time. I've actually got a client of mine who's going to be a first round draft pick this year. And so we sat down. He's a baseball player. He's very, very good. Unbelievable family. And, he's saying to me, the dad saying, "We got to save this money. We got to save this money." And I explained him a concept to him called the rule of 72. And the rule of 72, for those that don't know, is a division problem. What you do is you take 72 divided by your rate of return. And the answer, which is known as the quotient, is the number of years it takes to double your money. So you turn around and you say, listen, if you can earn 10% on your money, you take 72 divided by 10, the quotient is 7.2. So it takes 7.2 years to double your money. So, if a first round baseball draft pick, let's say, gets $3 million, okay, well, $1 million goes to taxes. And then, your agent, you buy mama a house and you do all this other stuff. I said, when it's all said and done, if you're 18 years old and you have $1 million left and we can earn 10% for you on your money, okay, at 18 years old, at 25, you got 2, at 32, you got 4, at 39, you got 8, at 46, you got 16, okay, at 53, you got 32, and at 60, when you're probably like done doing whatever you're done doing, you got $60 million. And obviously that's completely oversimplified. It's very linear. But I think the reality is that understanding the more compounding periods we have in your 401k, in your Roth IRA, in your 457 or your 403b at work, always contribute up to that match. I get people that ask me all the time, should we do the Roth contribution or should we do the pre-tax? The Roth is post-tax. So that means you put money in, you don't get to take a tax deduction for it, but the money's allowed to grow tax deferred. And when you take it out, you never have to pay taxes. Whereas if you put pre-tax money into a retirement account, you get to take a deduction. So you go back to our $100,000 example, you're contributing 3%, that's $3,000. So your taxable income goes from 100,000 down to 97,000 because of that 3% that you deferred. The problem is that that money's going to grow. And when it grows and it comes time to take it out, you have to pay taxes on it. So people, they say all the time, should I do pre-tax or post-tax? Should I do traditional or should I do Roth? And I ask them, are you getting money back on your taxes or are you paying money in? Completely simplified 10,000 foot. And they say, well, I'm getting some money back. And I say, okay, the Roth probably is a good thing to look at because the more money you contribute pre-tax, the bigger the refund you're going to get. And the reality is, I tell people, we just don't want to pay in. If we can get money back, that's great. But what we don't want is probably what high rollers like you have, Corey, a big tax bill at the end of the year.
Shit, I wish.
Yeah. So I think that, kind of shepherding and guiding people through things like that. But I think it's such a mistake. Some of the wealthiest clients I have are teachers, especially like math teachers who understand the math behind compounding interest. They're typically coachable, and they teach and they're making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. They got a little pension, but they've got $4, $5, $6 million because they bought a bunch of Apple, they bought a bunch of Amazon, and you ask them, what made you buy all that Amazon? Well, I spend a lot of money at Amazon. Everybody has an iPhone. So I think, you asked about Omaha, Nebraska. I think in the middle of America, where I'm at, I think people have a tendency to be a little bit more agrarian. They have a tendency to be a little bit more commonsensical than sometimes you get to see out on the coast. And that doesn't make it better or worse. I think it just sometimes people can be a little bit more, we call it kind of horse savvy, just kind of commonsensical. And I think when you apply some of that common sense to saving and investment principles, it really leads to some really, really delayed gratification, but a lot of success. So
that's something I've heard a lot lately. I'm not a big reader, but that
yeah.
delayed gratification is something I've heard a lot lately, right? And most people aren't willing to wait. But so tell me what you think about this. When I was in corporate America years ago, I maxed out my 401k, at least on the pre-tax side, right? So I don't recall, but let's say I could do up to 6% pre-tax and they would match up to 3%. So I did it, right? And a few years later, I couldn't believe how much money I had sitting there. Now, my wife, when she was a nurse and they matched, I told her to do the same thing, max it out pre-tax and get whatever they're willing to match from the company. Well, now she works for the state of Delaware. She's a school nurse. And I was getting ready to say, hey, go ahead and do it. Well, she told me that they don't match. They don't do any match at all. So I said, well, shit, if they're not going to match anything whatsoever, then don't even bother contributing. And now she still could do pre-tax, and maybe I'm wrong. But when I really started to think about it, if everything goes right for me, my delayed gratification comes to fruition, that if she goes pre-tax or she does it now pre-tax, when she retires, we might have more money in the bank then, or our tax bracket might be higher when we're in retirement age and we pull that money out, and she might pay more in taxes at that time than she would now when she's contributing. So I said, to hell with it. Don't even put it in your 401k. Let's just invest it in other areas outside of the 401k. Is that wrong thinking?
I don't think it's wrong. I mean, I don't think it's wrong at all. I think the first thing to think about is just like wrestling, just like baseball, just like anything, working out, more of it generally is better. So I think I tell people all the time, hey, I don't care how you're saving, just pay yourself. Just make sure you're saving. And when you get in that mindset where you're saving, then we can refine it. So the hardest part about, in my opinion, about wrestling is being willing to shoot and finish. So it's hard when you see wrestlers that are unwilling to shoot. It's like shoot, 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 and they don't want to shoot. And so I think the same thing, the same principles apply to savings. What I would say to you is that the only if you're working at a place and they're not matching, okay, and you're disorganized, contribute because they'll take it right out of your paycheck. You don't have to mess with it. There's some steps that go to systematically saving money. And so alleviating some of those concerns by having your payroll department do it is a good thing. But what I will tell you is that if you're contributing under the 401k limits, which it's 17,000, if you're just putting 3, 4, 5 grand away, you can do a Roth IRA. I think the Roth IRA limitation for people under 50 is 6,000 this year. Same thing for a traditional IRA. So I don't care if you're saving in a joint brokerage account, a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, save. Now, I will tell people that if you're going to save money outside of a retirement account, like you were talking about with your wife, and I don't know what you're buying, and it doesn't matter, but be tax sensitive, be tax savvy about it. I mean, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. When you're in Omaha, Nebraska, everybody gets a birth certificate and a stock certificate, Berkshire Hathaway. And what's really cool about Berkshire Hathaway is they don't pay a dividend. Warren Buffett kind of has a belief that he's better off having those retained earnings and reinvesting them for you than you are. So they don't pay a dividend. So what people have a tendency to overlook is that stocks are the ultimate tax deferred investment. Because if the stock doesn't pay a dividend, you buy it, you hold on to it until the day you die, you never pay any taxes. So if we kind of apply some math to it, if you buy, let's see where Berkshire Hathaway B is trading right now. So Berkshire Hathaway B is trading at 420 spot 51. So let's just say it's trading at 420. So let's say that you bought 100 shares, $4,250, or excuse me, you bought 100 shares of Berkshire Hathaway, 42 grand. So you buy $42,000 worth of Berkshire Hathaway at 420, and let's say that it goes to 10,000. If you sell that in your lifetime, your cost basis, you bought it at 420, you sold it at 10,000. The difference between it is your gain, and you pay taxes based on that gain. If you hold that stock until you die, your cost basis, that 420 you bought it at, it steps up to your date of death value. So that 420 that you bought it at and those capital gains taxes that you would have owed, they go away. So it steps up to your date of death value, and whoever inherits that money, they're able, if they choose to sell that Berkshire Hathaway or any stock that they bought and literally never ever pay any taxes on it. So that's why it's such a great tax deferred stocks can be such a great tax deferred vehicle, but sometimes you need a little stomach to own them, and you need a little bit of guidance. There's no doubt.
Well, that goes back to though, like if I'm like a day trader, but if I'm buying junk and I have to sell it, right? I'm trying to get a quick buck versus I think at the beginning of this call you said, hey, if you buy quality, you can keep quality, right? So like if I don't need to dip into that money and I can just let it ride, then I never even pay taxes on it, and it just gets passed on for the family.
And the same thing holds true with the Roth IRA. You're never required to take money out of a Roth IRA. A traditional IRA or a pre-tax account, I generally tell people the government doesn't mind waiting for their money, but they're going to get it. But that's what's great about our Berkshire Hathaway example. That's what's great about Roth IRAs. I think the biggest Roth IRA in the world is the CEO of Blackstone. I think he's got $6 billion in his Roth IRA. And he bought some company, put some shares in there from an acquisition. It went crazy. And literally that money can sit in there. He can take it out tax free. He never, ever, ever has to spend it. He can leave it to his heirs. And the government, based on today's law, which I don't think will ever change, can never, ever do anything about it. Back to your quality example, and I want to be clear, we're kind of talking in a vacuum here. I think that financial advice, and my disclaimer is that it should be customized. I think when we paint with a very broad stroke, you open yourself up a little bit to being maybe one size fits all. And that's the exact opposite that I think a great financial advisor should be. I think when you let people into your circle, and you share what goes on in your bank account and your finances and your income and your taxes. I think it should be very customized. I think it should be very personal. But I joke with our clients a lot. Um, in football, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Just hit somebody. I don't care if you're playing tackle or fullback. There's a big guy lined up in front of me. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to knock the stuffing out of the guy in front of me. So what do you do when you don't know what to do in football? You hit somebody. What I talk to people about is, what do you do when you don't know what to do with your money? Just buy Apple. Again, see my recent disclaimer, but I think Steve Jobs was Leonardo da Vinci, and I think he's laid out a path to prosperity for that company that is second to none. So I think buying quality. What defines quality? Warren Buffett says they make something you can drop on your foot. Um, Warren Buffett talks about having a lot of cash, having a lot of revenue, having a lot of customers, increasing your revenue. So it doesn't matter what the company is. It doesn't matter what the business is. If their books are straight, if they have a great product, if they've got great management, great leadership, and they sell more and more and more of their stuff, they're generally something that we consider to be a best of breed company and something that we are generally very interested in owning. I mean, you look at Starbucks. Corey, you fly a lot. I fly a lot. I mean, there's not a damn Starbucks in the United States that doesn't have a line of people around it in the airport. And so, Starbucks is a company that we've been in and out of a lot. It always intrigues me because what are you doing when the market's up? You're drinking coffee. What are you doing when the market's down? You're drinking coffee. Yeah. So I like those kind of recession-proof industries.
I mean, when I was a kid, my mom was making Folgers in the kitchen, but it's quite the industry now, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So I had a million things written down, but like you said, like it's so customizable. Everybody's situation is different, but things to think about, like stocks, life insurance, college savings, retirements. There's a lot of different things. So I guess the question is, a lot of people don't have savings, they don't have a financial advisor. There's something there that's preventing them from doing something, but I think they don't think it's worth taking that step because they don't think they have enough money. So if I'm an average person, is there, hey, I need to have X amount of money before I solicit, or consider getting a financial advisor? Or what is for that person what is the first step in deciding whether I should get a financial advisor or not?
Yeah, the first step has nothing to do with how much you have. What it has to do with what you're willing to do and interviewing people. And I'm not a person, I've got 40 some people that work in our Omaha operation that I manage. There's people that I hired right on the spot. I'm not a big believer in, we have to interview 5 people for the role. I think when you find the right person, we believe that you hire slowly and fire quickly. And when the right person comes along, we hire them. And I think the same thing holds true with an advisor. I generally know that when I sit down with somebody, I don't care how much money they have. I want to deal with somebody that's coachable. I want to deal with somebody that's got an insatiable desire to win. I want to deal with somebody that wants to learn, that wants to work with us. We liken your financial advisor in your life should be the CFO of your company. You are the CEO. I mean, when you put that to a real world example, the CEO says, hey, we want to buy a corporate jet. The CFO says, we can't afford it. CEO does it anyway. Well, it's on him. So to get back to the genesis of your question, what I think it's sitting down with somebody that's willing to take time for you to give you a customized experience and basically design a plan. Look, I live in Nebraska. You're in Maryland. Are you in Maryland?
Delaware, baby.
Same thing. So, but look, if you want to get to California, if you drive west long enough, you're going to get to California. It might take a lot longer than it needs to, and that's where someone like me comes in. That's where people that do what I do. Well, our job is to come up with a plan, and it's to give you the proper rules of the road, the instruction, and explain the outcomes with every decision. So I think that I've got clients that have we have no minimum at Ziola Well Solutions. We have no minimum. I just hired a wrestler from Kansas that works for me. So I got a baseball player, a golfer, and a wrestler that work on my team. It's great. I finally got somebody I don't think I can win. But the bottom line is that when I hire more people for my team because we're not going to take that bottom 10 or 20 or 30% of our book of business and say, you know what, you just don't have enough money. I mean, could you imagine being that kind of a person? And in our industry, that's the push. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's reprehensible. I think that we've got an obligation to make people's lives better. because, and I think ultimately, so back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm kind of bloviating, but I think finding a person that you have a fit with, you should have their cell phone number. You should have your financial advisor's cell phone number. You should be able to call them on a Sunday and say, look, we found a house that we're in love with. If I need to take some money out of my investments, what is the impact of that on my plan? My general response is me or one of my team members will be in the office in the next 30 minutes. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll explain the outcomes. You might have to work another year. Hey, you can't afford it. This doesn't impact your plan at all. But so you should have their cell phone number. They should have an online portal that you can go into and you can look at your stuff. You should have a financial plan with them. You should not pay $1 for that financial plan. That should all be included. So, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, everybody walks in, they got $10 million and they just say, here's a check, just do what you want. But unfortunately, that's not how the game is played. I think the best financial advisors are the ones that take a lot of pride in seeing people do well, seeing people kind of reach some of those milestones. Yeah. So, but I don't think getting blinded by all of the foo-foo, all the golf balls and the Starbucks gift cards and the birthday cards. I think at the end of the day, what I love about wrestling is somebody won and somebody lost. What I love about baseball is somebody won, somebody lost. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to investing money, did you achieve your short-term, your intermediate, and your long-term goals? And if you're not, we have to figure out why. And if we have to make some changes, be it personnel, be it hiring, be it firing, it's just what's got to be done because we can make more money. We cannot make more time. I tell people all the time, I just want to pay for my kids' college. I just want to pay for my kids' college. I said, let me stop you. I want you to remember this. We can finance anything in your life, cars, houses, boats, and college. We cannot finance your retirement. I need you to pay yourself first, and let's work. Let's do it like Star Wars. Let's start at the end, your retirement, and then we will work backwards from there all the way to that stupid Disney cruise that everybody wants to take. So, a day in the life.
So, and I'm sure it's it's always good to have diversity, but quick thought on stocks. And when I say stocks, bonds, mutuals, whatever, but stocks versus real estate.
Yeah, I think a diversified portfolio is awesome. I think that I love real estate. I think the tax advantages that come with owning real estate, the depreciation, the amortization, I think that there is a ton of great advantages there. Here's the problem. Too many people in my opinion, start building real estate portfolios with borrowed money. And then what happens is they get on the wrong side of an interest rate trade. So what happens is if you look at where we are right now, we had 15 years of just unbelievably loose money in this country where, you were borrowing at 1, 2, I mean, a bad rate was 3%. So it's great. You could lever up, you could buy a house, do a loan, and just keep buying houses. The problem is most of that financing is variable. So most of that financing, the old 5-in-1 arm, the old 7-in-1 arm, HELOCs, things like that, and they're not bad. But I think when you get on the wrong side of interest rates, it can be really ugly. Margin loans, securities-based lines of credit. So what I mean by that is that when your cost of funds, your cost of borrowing starts going crazy with a bunch of variable financing, and you're building this real estate portfolio, it makes it very shaky. The same thing applies with stocks. You can borrow money from your house. You can borrow money against your holdings. You can borrow money from your mom and dad and buy stocks. I do not advise that. So I think real estate is great. I think too much of anything is a bad thing. So I think that for the people that have all of their money in real estate, stop, buy some stocks. I think the people that have all their money in stocks, stop. Get commercial properties, buy a couple of residential properties, talk to your CPA about it. But I think concentration is a great way to create wealth. But I think knowing when to diversify, knowing when to spread risk and diversify is the best way to protect wealth. So I think the younger you are, the more time you have, concentration is a great thing. But I think when you get to a point where, you start to get a lot of sun on the roof, or you start to get a lot of snow on the roof, it's time to start diversifying and kind of protecting things. And we've seen it. Look, I got a lot of clients that have borrowed a lot of money to buy planes, to buy houses, to buy commercial properties. COVID comes along, the property's vacant, their rental income's dried up. Their cost of funds is triple. I think the 10-year Treasury when Trump left office, and this is not a political statement, it's just the reality, was around 1.5%. And I think yesterday it was 4.32%. So your cost of funds is 3 times as expensive. And everybody wants to lock in a rate, but the problem is the banks don't want you to lock in a rate because now it's their give back. They gave you free money, and bankers are great people. I got no problem with them, but they were allowed you to borrow a lot of free money, and now's the give back. Now the pendulum swings to the other direction. So I don't like borrowing money for investments. I mean, I don't know if everybody's seen that. I will borrow interest-free money all day. There's that video of Dave Ramsey. The guy asked him, if you could borrow $1 billion interest-free, would you do it? And Dave Ramsey said, nope. Well, he's an idiot. You can borrow $1 billion interest-free, put it in a money market, guaranteed money market account at 5%, make $50 million off the trade. It's kind of a good deal. Yeah. So I think that time and place, it's like my boys. I won't lie to you. I think, I know their dad uses some bad language. I know you've heard me say it. My boys probably say some bad things once in a while, but I think it's no different. It doesn't matter if it's borrowing money or cursing at a wrestling event. I think there's a time and place. And I think being on the right side of rates is really, really important. So I don't dissuade people from ever buying real estate. But as their CFO, I explain to them what the cost is, what the potential outcomes is, what the probabilities of interest rates going up, what the probabilities of interest rates going down. I mean, literally, Corey, I'm not exaggerating. For over 10 years, I listened to my clients and other financial advisors, and hand to God, I never said it. Said, well, rates have to come up. And I never could understand why they were going to come up. And now the exact opposite is true. I've got so many clients saying, well, rates have to come down. They're going to cut. And I'm sitting here, I'll go on the record as saying, I see nothing in the tea leaves that would indicate that Jerome Powell is going to cut rates in the next 3 to 6 months. I see nothing that would indicate that. Now, he could. I mean, it's moving. Things could change. But I've got some clients that are thinking about buying a house. And they're saying, well, I think we should wait 3 months because I think rates are going to come down because, Powell's going to cut rates because of the election and he's got to get Biden back in. And look, Powell, the Federal Reserve doesn't care about who's president. It's not a political position. I think the job can be politicized. I think Trump tried to politicize the hell out of it. I don't think Biden is really trying to politicize it, but I don't think Jerome Powell is a guy that's going to succumb to that pressure anyway. He's been very clear. I want sub 2.5% inflation in this country. The Federal Reserve has a dual mandate: inflation and employment. We want unemployment low. We want inflation low, and he's not going to cut rates until inflation comes down. And it's not. Look at the CPI prints. Look at the jobs numbers. There's 184,000 jobs created this morning, far ahead of what people thought they were going to be. So I don't see rates coming down anytime soon. And frankly, I don't know if they need to. The people that want rates to come down are the people that are levered. They're the people that have borrowed a lot of money. No disrespect, but it is what it is. You got on the wrong side of rates, and now you got to weather the storm.
Yeah. So let's say 3 years ago, I could have bought a $500,000 house, but today I can only buy a $300,000 house because the interest rate makes my payment the same.
So that's exactly right. Now, think about this. Think about the person that bought that house, more house than they could afford, and they used variable financing. So they bought an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage. It's got a 1% max increase cap. So they borrowed at 275 basis points, 2.75% with a 1% cap. Now, 3 years into this, they're at 5.75% and going up, because even if the Fed starts cutting, it's going to take 2 years to get them under 6%. So their payment is just going to continue to go up and up and up. And that's really hard. I mean, variable financing works until it does not work. And that's, it's really hard.
I'm gonna dig into a little bit of personal stuff now, just because you shared it, so I don't feel like I'm prying. And honestly, the reason why I want to share this is just because I want to give other people hope. So I know you and I have talked a little bit offline. Your wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, but most recently you shared some really great news with me, which is she's finished her treatment, and I guess she would be in remission now, and things are probably getting a little bit easier in your household. My mother has been a breast cancer survivor now for 25 years. But I know plenty of people where they lost that battle. So, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience or what things have been like, or more so like anybody right now that's going through what you have gone through over the past year, to
No,
to give them some hope and try to keep them positive and let them know
yeah,
that, life, can get better.
yeah. I mean, it's almost a year ago to the day. My wife, I was putting chemicals in our hot tub. She said, "I need to talk to you." And I thought to myself, man, she's been sleeping in the guest bedroom for like 3 nights, and I didn't even do anything wrong. So I'm like, I kind of jokingly thought to myself, well, here comes that divorce I've always been dreaming of. And my wife and I've been together forever. So you know, and she said, hey, I got to talk to you. And I said, what's up? And she said, I've got a lump in my breast. And she immediately started apologizing to me because I lost my mom to breast cancer. And I said, well, we don't know what it is. I mean, it's okay. And she said, no, I got a biopsy tomorrow. She said, there's about a 90% chance it's cancer. And I just said, no problem. And it's a profound thing. You're not going to get me to cry, but I could. It's a profound thing when your wife, the mother, or your kids looks you square, stone faced, and says, "Please don't let me die." And it's a significantly bigger responsibility in that moment than I think anybody can really understand, because you know the introduction that you gave me. Let's assume half of it's true. Uh, I carry a lot, and I'm happy to do it. I got big shoulders, but I just said, hey, we're going to get through it. So, here we are. My boys are getting ready for the U.S. Open out in Vegas. Tickets are booked. She has a double mastectomy. My boys are saying we're not going to the Open. My wife's saying, oh, you're going. The tickets are paid for. You're going. And so we went out there and came home. My mother-in-law just did a fantastic job taking care of my wife with the drain tubes and everything. And my wife's tough. I never thought she was tough. I always thought she was by far the weakest Ziola, but she's tough, tougher than all of us combined. And so she did 16 weeks of chemotherapy. She did a treatment every other week, and it's crazy because the advice side of it is stay off Google. I mean, Christ, stay off Google. What the first thing I did, I started Googling everything. Oh boy, and I think it was hard because what I wish what I wish that I would have done more was probably been got a little bit more wrapped up in my faith and a little bit less wrapped up in being the protector, being the provider. I think at the end of the day, I try really hard to be a spiritual guy. I read the Bible, I pray, I do what I'm supposed. I feel like I do what I'm supposed to do, but I think there was just so much, let's just ball these up and let's just fight. And the problem is I'll tell anybody that's going through it. I've had too many people reach out to me, too many not because I can't handle it, too many because there's just too damn many people going through this. And I just told them, I said, hey, get wrapped up in your faith, listen to the doctor. If you pick a treatment plan, stay with it. But I tell everybody, have a very, very frank discussion with your doctor and say, listen, if this isn't going well, we got to know right away. We got to be out in front of this. So she did 8 weeks of adriamycin, which they call the Red Devil. So that's really uplifting when you're at chemo. Jen's sitting there, I'm bawling. I'm bawling. Jen's sitting there with, the port and all the stuff. And she's giving me little jobs. Why don't you go buy everybody in the place pizza? Oh, yeah, I'll do that. I'll get out of here so I don't have to sit here and cry. So she did the cold cap thing to try and save her hair. And she did. She saved some of her hair. So she did. And then she did 8 weeks of Taxol. And then she did 28 consecutive days of radiation. And, she was really tired. We had one huge blow up. I made the mistake. All of you husbands out there, she said, I'm the one with cancer. And I said, well, I look at it like we all have cancer. And that was not the right thing to say. In the moment, I thought it was this team thing, hey, we're all in this together. But I don't think she really wanted us to be all in it together. I don't think she wanted the rah rah stuff. So, um, I think, now November 3rd was her last treatment. She has reconstruction in May. She's back to the gym working out. Her hair is still pretty short. We've been giving her different names. We've been calling her Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. We think it's funny. She doesn't think it's that funny. So we sing a lot of Matchbox 20 songs to her, trying to make light of it. But I will tell you, anybody that's going through breast cancer, it's seriously the most indignant thing that a woman could ever go through. I think that when as a society, we look at a woman's breast, they signify breastfeeding and life, and then they signify femininity. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I think, when you read about it, when you talk to people, when you talk to other survivors, you talk to other people going through it, that's kind of the overwhelming theme. And I think, men, we have the things that make us men. I'm not going to say those things, but we all know what they are. And I think when that gets taken away from when those things get taken away from a woman, I think society, it's really hard. It's really hard being a woman. I've got a really good client, a good friend of mine, beautiful lady, and she says it's really hard being a woman. She said women rot, men age. I was like, oh, what do you mean? I don't understand. And she said, look at George Clooney. He's got gray hair. He's 25 pounds overweight. And, every girl thinks he's a heartthrob. She said, how would I look if I had gray hair and was 25 pounds overweight? She's got a lot of money. So I said, well, I think you'd look great. But I think, but I think deep down, it is hard. It's very, very hard to be a woman because of this femininity, because of this, these expectations, the what you're supposed to go through. So all of you husbands that have wives that are going through, kind of female problems, listen to them, pray with them, be understanding, and just know that there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to make their sadness and their hardship go away. But I think what they want to do is be relevant. I think what they want to do is be cared for. I think, it was hard. I mean, it was really hard. Um, Jen's a good lady, and it conjured up a lot of memories of my mom. She's cancer free. It was in 7 lymph nodes. And it goes back to Google. Here I am. Oh God, what stage is it? What stage is it? And the doctor looked at me and was like, why do you care? And I'm like, because I care. He goes, you Googled it. Dr. Kolkman looked at me and goes, you Googled it, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I did. And so, she had stage 2. And when you have stage 2 cancer, you can cure it. She's cancer free. So it was a hell of a journey. And I think it was a really good thing for our family. Tie it to wrestling a little bit. The night that we decided we were going to tell the boys, uh, they were out. So Cade and Jace and Ben had went somewhere, probably to Chipotle. That's literally the only thing they spend their money on, my money on. And so Jen said, "Hey, we got to tell them." So I called them. I said, "Hey, guys, come home. We got to talk to you." First thing they do when they walk through the door, who's sick? And I said, "Just sit down, shut up. Let's just talk." And it's pretty funny because Cade, who's the toughest man I've ever met in my life, uh, Ben, who's of the 3, is going to be tough. He ain't tough yet. And Jace is getting there. We tell him, and Ben breaks down, and Jace has got tears in his eyes. And Cade just put his chin up, and he just looked at me, and he said, "You got this?" I said, "I got it." And he looked at Jace and Ben, and he said, "We ain't got to worry about this." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because when life f's with you, you kick it right in the face." And I said, "I got it." And so it was good. I mean, he was kind of their spokesman through the whole thing. But I think so many people get so focused on the vanity, on the money, on the implications of everything that's going to happen, how it's going to affect our life in the short term. And I think these poor kids, and it's not parents, me, anybody being bad parents. I just think just you just it's triage. I watch these war movies. And you think about. I just watched Band of Brothers like I do every year and have a good cry. And they spend so much time with these medics. They call this guy Doc, and he's walking around. And he can't save this guy, and he can't save this guy, but he can save this guy, and he's got to let his friends go. And I think when these things happen, it becomes triage. And I think the kids look good. They look normal. They got gas in the car, and they're winning wrestling matches, and they're lifting weights, and their grades are okay. But they see that mom and dad are not mom and dad. They see mom being sick. I mean, Cade goes out to the Open last year, and Willie's texting me, "Cade's going to win it. Cade's going to win it." He draws Jordan Chapman, who's going to go to Rutgers, who's a stud, Jersey stud, awesome family, awesome kid, first match. So, I mean, I'm thinking here's 2 of the top 3 kids in the bracket. Cade loses 20-18 to him. So he loses his first match of the Open, and he hadn't competed, and he really hadn't done much. And I looked at him and I said, "You okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm going to wrestle all the way back. I can do this." But I could tell, he was hurting, and not because he lost. He was hurting because he's finally I got it out of him. I weaseled it out of him. He goes, man, I just deserve a break here. I should have got not as good a kid first match, and with everything I've been through. So it's hard, and life is hard. The world's ran by hard people with guns, so we might as well just accept our fate and put it in God's hands.
So I'll give you a little story. At most of our tournaments, we talk about mental health and suicide prevention in the beginning of the event.
Every
However,
morning, every morning.
yeah, but we also we think that's important enough that we address it in every tournament. But in the awareness month, we do talk about Parkinson's, we talk about Alzheimer's, and then we have rebranded Columbus Day Duels, which is our largest event, in support of breast cancer because it's in October.
Yep.
So, we've been off and on, we've had different organizations that we support financially, but we've really been struggling to like find somebody that could be local or the money's going to where we want it to go to and not just somebody's paycheck or just whatever. So this past October, when we were at Spooky Nook for Columbus Day Duels, it just so happened to be because they're usually like the first weekend of October for their this organization is usually like the first weekend of October is their like banquet fundraiser. And then Columbus Day usually falls on the second weekend. But for whatever reason, the way the calendar fell this year, we were both on the first weekend or both the same weekend. So anyway, I found out that they were running this fundraiser and it was breast cancer. And I just walked in and introduced myself. So I met this lady, Linda Charles. She's in Pennsylvania. But Linda Charles, and she started this organization called Help the Fight. And actually 100% of proceeds go back into the organization. Nobody takes a paycheck whatsoever. So anyway, we get to talk, and I said, all right, there's a dinner Saturday night, and that's in the middle of our 2-day tournament, but I attend the dinner. I do all these different things. I just want to be a part of it. I make some donations. I buy some silent auction items. That's not even, but the fact that the stars were in a line that we were able to meet at my tournament at that location that weekend, and we were able to connect. Then on top of that, the girl that they had, I say girl because she's a teenage high schooler, the girl that they had to come in as a guest speaker, and I forget her name, you have to excuse me, but she had breast cancer as a young teenager,
Oh,
and she ends up being a girl wrestler, right, at a Pennsylvania school within like, I don't know, an hour of the facility. So I get a chance to meet her and her family. And then we invited her back on Sunday, and she came in, was able to talk to the entire tournament on day 2, just about her fight and breast cancer, different things like that. So, it's crazy how things, the world works and how you get connected with people. I have one of my guys bringing this in. I'm going to send these out to you, your boys, and your wife. So we had these
yeah.
made up.
Oh, man.
So at the tournament, we have, limited edition breast cancer shirts made up for Tyrant, and we call up anybody that's in treatment or in remission or whatever. But, and there's guys and girls. There was a male there the last time. It's predominantly female, but sometimes there's a male. But they all come up. We give them their shirts. I get a chance to meet them and just kind of, thank them for being so strong and wish them the best and let them know if there's anything we can do to help them, we'll certainly do it. But, and again, it all came back to my mother. Unfortunately, like I lost my father to cancer when I was 7 years old. And, my wife was pregnant with my youngest boy, CJ. So it was 20, he's 24 now. So, when my mom's telling me she has cancer, and I think I'm gonna lose my mother. I'm not gonna have any parents that are alive at all. It was really tough. And, I think I was ill perceived with what I thought, which was, because my mom survived, I think I was like, oh, well, when people tell me sometimes that they have breast cancer, I'm like, oh, well, you know what? That's like the most treatable. You're going to be okay. But I know that there's so many people that have lost their fight with breast cancer. And now that I'm more educated, that's not the case, So it depends on how you get it, where you get it, and what stage you're in, all these different types of things. And then, like you said, like, my high school wrestling coach, like I know that his wife had a double mastectomy. My sister-in-law had a double mastectomy. And, I think all these things are public. So I hope, but everybody goes through a different experience. And like, to your point, like, I guess you just have to support them in the manner in which they want to be supported. And it's their fight and not yours. So, but, I'm glad that your wife is doing okay. We are a big supporter of breast cancer. I'm going to get those shirts out to you. I got 2 things to kind of wrap this up. I know your time is valuable.
I got as much time as you need. I got as much time. I will never tell you no. I tell you that every time we talk. I got as much time as you need, brother.
2 things and a lot of times I say, hey, what advice do you have for our listeners, or what do you want people to know about you or your company or whatever? But I got 2 things I'm going to kind of just pitch it for you. One, Everybody across the country, especially the East Coast folks, need to know that it's Ziola, not Ziola. So
Well,
we're
you
going to,
corrected them, not me. I
I'm,
don't.
cor-
Everybody's a prospect. I'm not correcting anybody.
I'm correcting everybody now on this podcast for our millions of listeners. And I'm going to correct everybody going forward anytime and every time I ever talk about you or anybody's talking about you, because I've always said it wrong up until today. So I apologize.
No problem.
The second thing is, and you kind of said it without saying it earlier, but also you are in the transaction business. Can you just talk briefly, and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah.
Talk about building relationships over worrying about being transactional. So like having a relationship or building a relationship with your customers, your clients, your friends, whatever, but or how a relationship is more important than a single transaction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if it's your relationship with God or Christ or whoever you pray to. I don't care if it's your relationship with your banker, your financial advisor, or your tournament director. Okay. When you eliminate the notion of transactions, I mean, what you have to understand is in a transaction, and I hope everybody really understands this in its purest form. In a transaction, there's an exchange. And what I think should happen is that when you truly have a relationship and you want to have a deep relationship, the transaction has to be removed. We spend more time talking to our clients about their life and their goals and their fears and their hot buttons and what's important to them rather than just saying, well, you made this and you pay me this and here's your bill. So I think that, my life changed dramatically when I went from saying, hey, God, if you let my guys win this wrestling match, I'll donate this money. Hey, honey, I made this much money today. I get to go to Vegas. And when I started living for others, and I really, really started making my life about seeing everybody else do great, everything changed. And what I mean by that is I do a little, I never do enough, but I try to do a lot. And people thank me all the time. And I say to them, finally, the people that I get really close to, I probably said it to you, Corey, listen, I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. I get more out of doing good for people than you could ever get. It makes me human. It keeps me humble. It keeps me where I need to be. So when you tie it to financial advisors, look, I don't charge commissions. I'm not a commission guy. I think the problem is that we call it hockey stick production. What that means is no production, no production, no, 25th of the month. I make a bunch of money. I don't do it that way. I see financial advisors do it that way. I see accountants and CPAs and bankers and everybody. They want that transaction. They want that gratification. And the problem is that when it's transactional, it's never deep. It's easy. Okay, well, I made my money. I made my money off your account. I made my money off this transaction. If you're mad and you want to go because I don't have to give you my money back. So I think that the number one question that I ask people when they come into the office, they bring their statements. They say, how do you pay your financial advisor? How do you pay him? Corey, I'm not BSing you. 98% of the people say, I have no idea. We open up their statement. You've got $2 million invested with this guy or this gal, and you're paying them 1.5%. That's 30 grand a year. I had no idea. So I think understanding what you're paying, how you're paying, why you're paying is all also known as not being transactional. I think that transparency, I think understanding your hot buttons. Look, I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about religion with these people. I let them determine what we're going to talk about. And I try really hard to relate to them. And I think ultimately it's a results. Life is about results. And I think that when you find that person that you can have a really deep relationship with, and you can really focus on the results, not the cost, not the good, not the bad, just the net effect of the relationship. The transaction's gone. You're living for other people, and life becomes much, much simpler. To credit to your organization, Corey. I know I've worked with a couple different guys. I've worked with your daughter, who's my favorite, by the way.
She's my favorite too.
Yeah, but what's really, really cool about it is that there's been times that crap's messed up. We're buying gear, we're paying entry fees, people aren't paying, there's things that are going on. And look, at the end of the day, you're not grabbing anybody by the throat, which you probably should, and saying, hey, where's the money? You're saying, listen, let's get it worked out. We got more events. Let's get you to the events. We want to have a relationship with you. And I think that what that does is that endears people. And I think it makes people realize, hey, wait a minute, this guy's donating money. We're saying the national, we're playing the national anthem. We're talking about suicide awareness. We're talking about Alzheimer's. We're talking about breast cancer. We're basically all pulling in the same direction for the greater good. And I got receipts. It's memorialized on some podcasts I've done. It's memorialized on Twitter that if you're a wrestler and you're not getting on teams on the Tyrant circuit, you're making a huge mistake because the best wrestlers are there. They start when they say they're going to start. They end when they say they're going to start. The mats are clean. The service is good. The concessions are good. The venues are great. And I think that all of that equates to not being transactional. So, I think it's a real testament to you, my man. I don't think there's any accidents in the world. I think, you and I have had some really, really deep discussions. Never had a crossword. We've never had a crossword. I've never been mad at you. I don't think you've ever been mad at me. If you have been, I apologize. But
I think the most important thing is for us is if we were upset with each other, we would talk to each other directly about it. And that's 100%. The kind of people that we are. So, and that's why I love you so much, Tim.
No, I love you too, man. Whatever you need.
Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us. If anybody's looking for financial advice, how can they get in touch with you?
Give us a call, and I'm licensed in all 50 states, and if you need somebody that you can go see, we'll help you find the right person. We'll do whatever it takes to make your life better. So I appreciate you, Corey. God bless. Please give everybody my best. You got my number, and I'm available 24/7. You just call me.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
All right, brother. You bet.